When you hear our show tune from the great white way, does a shiver run through ya? Well, we're giving them to ya. Sing hallelujah and shout hooray. Come on along and listen to Broadway to Main Street. USA.
Love is sweeping the country. Waves are hugging the shore. All the sexes from Maine to Texas have never known such love before. See them billing and cooing like the birdies above. Each girl and boy alike, sharing joy alike, feels that passion will soon be national. Love is sweeping the country. There never was so much love. Waves are hugging the shore. All the sexes from Maine to Texas have never known such love before. See them billing and cooing like the birdies above. Each girl and boy alike, sharing joy alike, feels that passion will soon be national. Love is sweeping the country. There never was so much. From Maine to Texas, all of the sexes joyfully wooing, billing and cooing. Love is sweeping the country.
Well, in addition to love, one thing that's sweeping the country is election fever. This is Larry Maslon, your host for Broadway to Main Street. I want to give a nod of the election era hat to Chris Connor for her lovely rendition of Love is Sweeping the Country, the Gershwin's political musical Of Thee I Sing. That's what that comes from. Well, you may have heard that an election is approaching, a small event that will only determine the outcome of Western civilization for the next 4 years, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to look at how the American musical theater has taken a look at different presidential campaigns. So on today's episode of Broadway to Main Street here on 88.3 FM, Peconic Public Broadcasting, we're going to go all the way back to 1927. And this was a great year for American musical theater, Showboat, Connecticut Yankee, and a show called Strike Up the Band. Now, Strike Up the Band had a score by George and Ira Gershwin, who were at the peak of their form in the 20s, and a book by the greatest American comic dramatist, George S. Kaufman. And it was a spoof about military entanglement in Switzerland and chocolate and a war that was being funded by an industrialist, a lot of very esoteric but humorous situations. And as George S. Kaufman once said, satire is what closes on Saturday night. It closed Out of Town in Philadelphia, but left us some great Gershwin music. So let's have Tony Bennett pick up the military baton and lead us into Strike Up the Band.
Let the drums roll out, let the trumpet call, while the people shout, strike up the band. Hear the cymbals ring, call them one and all, to the martial swing, strike up the band. There is work to be done, let's have fun, fun, fun. You son of a gun, take your stand. Fall in line, oh, come on, let's go. Hey leader, strike up the band. To be done, let's have fun, fun, fun. Come on, son of a gun, take your stand. Fall in line, oh, come on, let's go. Hey, Mr. Leader, hey, Mr. Leader, please take up the band.
That's some band he struck up. It was, in fact, Count Basie and his orchestra. Well, Strike Up the Band failed in 1927. A revised version was a success in 1930, but it made George S. Kaufman want to work with the Gershwins again, and he teamed up with a co-librettist, Maury Riskin, to write clearly one of the best pre-Oklahoma book musicals of all time, certainly one of the best, if not the best, presidential satire, called Of Thee I Sing. And you may know the plot of Thee I Sing. It's a presidential candidate named John P. Wintergreen who decides to run on the Love platform. That's where we heard Love is Sweeping the Country, and is swept into office because everybody loves a lover. Our next song from Of Thee I Sing is going to be sung by Bobby Short, and it's actually Wintergreen's inaugural address from the steps of the Capitol, and it will lead us into the title number from Of Thee I Sing. So let's hope whatever presidential address we get on January 20th, 2013, is as interesting as the Gershwins. Take it away, Bobby Short.
I have definite ideas about the Philippines and the herring situation up in Bismarck. I have notions on the salaries of movie queens and the men who sign their signature with this mark. Just a simple X. But on this glorious day I find I'm sentimentally inclined, and so I sing this to the girls I used to know. Here's a kiss for Cinderella and a parting kiss for May. Toodaloo, goodbye, this is my wedding day. Here's a parting smile for Della and the lady known as Lou. Toodaloo, goodbye, with bachelor days I'm through. Though I really never knew them, it's a rule I must obey. So I'm saying goodbye to them in the customary way. My regards to Arabella and to Emmeline and Kay. Toodaloo, dear girls, goodbye, this is my wedding day. I am toodalooing all my lady loves, all the girls I didn't know so well, all the innocent and all the shady loves, oh ding-a-dong-a-dell. Bright and room, the future should be glorious. What a happy story they will tell. Let the welcome now become uproarious. Oh, ding-a-dong dell. Oh, I really never knew them. It's a rule I must obey. So I'm saying goodbye to them in the customary way. My regards to Arabella and to Emmeline and Kay. Toodaloo, dear girls, goodbye. This is my wedding day.
From the island of Manhattan to the coast of gold, from north to south, from east to west, you are the one I love the best. You're the dream boy of the sweetest story ever told. I dream I saw both day and night for years through all the USA. The stars I've hitched my wagon to is very obviously true. Of thee I sing, baby. Summer, autumn, winter, baby, you're my silver lining. You're my sky of blue. There's a love light shining just because of you. Of thee I sing, baby. You have got that certain thing, baby. Shining star and inspiration, worthy of a mighty nation. The
Well, there was a musical marriage of a kind that we made happen over the radio airwaves. Bobby Short, and then, of course, the mellifluous mahogany voice of Sarah Vaughan. Of the I Sing was a huge hit. It was actually the Gershwins' biggest Broadway hit show. It was the first musical to win the Pulitzer Prize. George Kaufman and Ira Gershwin and Maury Riskin all split the $1,000 prize three ways. George was not awarded a prize until many, many years later. The committee realized decades later what a mistake they had made by overlooking George Gershwin. It was such a successful show, running over 440 performances and on the road, that they decided to write a rare musical sequel. Not too many musical sequels out there, but they decided to bring Wintergreen and Co. back for a musical called Let 'Em Eat Cake, a much more acerbic show, one that started to look at ideas about fascism. In fact, Wintergreen decides to become a dictator in the second act of the show, but that's a story for another time. Let's listen to the astonishing opening number from Let 'Em Eat Cake, in which Wintergreen runs again for president, opposed by a man named John P. Tweedledee, this wonderful contrapuntal electioneering song, and then we'll go into a Paul Whiteman medley back from 1933 of Let 'Em Eat Cake. So here's some music you may not know from the Gershwins, but of course from the pen and keyboard of George Naira, it's going to be awfully exciting. This is from the opening number of Let 'Em Eat Cake.
whether it rain or storm or shine. Mine, you are mine, never another Valentine. And I am yours, tell me that I'm yours, show me that smile my heart adores. Mine, more than divine, to know that love like yours is mine. Let's tear down the house of Morgan.
House of Morgan,
Let's burn up the Roxy organ.
Roxy organ,
Down with Curly and McCooey.
and Marcooey,
Down with Chow Mein and Chop Suey.
and Chop Suey,
Down with music by Stravinsky.
on Swervinsky,
Down with shows except by Minsky.
up with Minsky,
Happiness will fill our cup when it's down with everything that's up. When it's down with everything that's up. Down with books by Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky,
Down with Boris Tomaszewski.
Tomaszewski,
Down with Balzac, down with Zola.
down with Zola,
Down with pianists who play Nola. Down with all the upper classes.
upper classes,
Might as well include the masses.
soothe the masses,
Happiness will fill our cup when it's down with everything that's up. When it's down with everything that's up.
on and on and on, hither and thither and yon. It seems to be the thing for marching men to sing. On and on and on, on and on and on, hither and thither and yon. For movements military, there is no itinerary like on and on and on, on and on and on.
The point we're making in this song
Love is
is that we
mine,
more than get along.
whether it rain
And he is not
or
ashamed to say,
or shine.
I made him what he is today. It does a
Mine,
person good to see
you are
such happy
mine,
domesticity.
never another
The way we're making love, you swear,
Valentine.
we're not a married pair.
And I am yours.
He says no matter rain or
Tell me
shine,
that I'm yours.
whatever he may have is
Show
mine.
me that's
The
mine.
point that I
My
am
heart
making here,
adores.
whatever I may have is his.
Mine, more than divine. To know that love like yours is mine.
Well, if you found that music thrilling, and you'd have to be more than 47% of the population not to find it thrilling, then you might want to come to a concert in New York City at Merkin Concert Hall on Saturday, October 20th at 8 p.m. This is a concert called Mr. Gershwin Goes to Washington. It's sponsored by the New York Festival of Song. I've done the adaptation of the libretto. It's all Gershwin music about the political situation. Two tremendous pianists, Steve Blyer and Joseph Thalken, and a great Broadway/operatic cast, headlined by Mark Kudish and David Garrison. So check it out, Merkin Concert Hall, October 20th, Mr. Gershwin Goes to Washington. Well, the first half of our show, Broadway to Main Street, was pretty much filled up with the Gershwin's contribution to political satire, but by the 1930s there was political satire everywhere on the Broadway stage. George Kaufman teamed up with Moss Hart to write a wonderful show which rarely gets revived called I'd Rather Be Right, which was a musical fantasy about Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal. And Roosevelt, as some of you may know, was played by George M. Cohan coming out of retirement. The show is an absolute time capsule of life in the mid-1930s, certainly in New York, as Roosevelt tried to balance the budget and think about running for a second term. And here are two songs from it, which are rarely heard, score by none other than Rodgers and Hart. Rodgers and Hart weren't quite on the same wavelength, I don't think, satirically, at least in this mode, as the Gershwins. But we'll hear the title number, I'd Rather Be Right, and then we're going to segue into the one section of this show you may know. Well, there are two sections you may know. The first is the song Have You Met Miss Jones, the one hit to come out of the show. But then we're going to hear a recording of James Cagney from the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy, where he plays George M. Cohan playing Franklin Roosevelt, singing his big 11 o'clock number. So, two songs by Rodgers and Hart from I'd Rather Be Right.
I'd rather be right than influential. I'd rather be right than wealthy and wise. I don't come through, dear, where brains belong, but pertaining to you, dear, I can't go wrong. I'd rather be right than presidential. Let other folks fight for heights above. What do I fight for? Just to be right for. I'd rather be right, just right about love.
He'd rather be right. He'd rather be right. He'd rather be right. He'd rather be right.
What do I fight for? Just to be right for. I'd rather be right, just right about love.
A wonderful job for fellows like George, Abe, and me too. It's great to shake hands with a mob and to hold every kid on your knee too. Every word that I speak goes into headlines. When I speak, all the papers hold their deadlines. But I've found a way of dropping a hint or a glint of the truth that the boys cannot print. For instance, when I was courting Eleanor, I told her Uncle Teddy I wouldn't run for president unless the job was steady. Don't print it, strictly off the record. We entertained the royalty, but we were never flustered. We gave them Yankee hot dogs with Coleman's English mustard. Don't print it, strictly off the record. It's pleasant at the White House, but I'll tell you how I feel. The food is simply terrible, just sauerkraut and veal. If Mrs. R would stay at home, I'd get a decent meal. But that's off the record. I go up to Hyde Park, it's not for just the ride there. It's not that I like Hyde Park, but I love to park and hide there. Don't print it, it's strictly off the record. I sit up in my study writing gags for Mr. Ickes and insults for the gentleman who'd love to slip a Mickey's. Don't print that. Off the record. I scrapped the Prohibition Act when we required a bracer and finished up the Boulder Dam to give the boys a chaser. Don't print it, it's strictly off the record. And for my friends in Washington who complain about the taxes, who cares as long as we can knock the axe out of the axes? Don't print it, it's strictly off the record. I can't forget how Lafayette helped give us our first chance to win our fight for liberty, and now they've taken France. We'll take it back from Hitler and put ants in his Japan, and that's for the record. Good work, kids. I'll see you at 11 in the morning.
That was Jimmy Cagney playing George M. Cohan, playing FDR. The end of those lyrics actually aren't quite the lyrics from the show because the movie came out of Yankee Doodle Dandy came out during wartime, so there's reference to the Axis and Hitler, which of course wouldn't have happened in 1937. And before that, I should have mentioned we heard Johnny Desmond singing the title song to I'd Rather Be Right. Well, I suppose after we got into war, though, it's not an unfortunate segue to go back to a song from Of the I Sing, which closes the show, about posterity coming just around the corner. And we were very lucky in 1987 that there was a concert at the Brooklyn Academy of Music conducted by Michael Tilson Thomas that put Of the I Sing and Let 'Em Eat Cake in their full form as recorded albums. We wouldn't really have it otherwise. So here is Maureen McGovern and Larry Kert and that concert company of Of the I Sing.
Why, posterity is just around the corner. Posterity is just around the corner.
Posterity is just around the corner.
It really doesn't pay to be a mourner.
Posterity is just around the corner.
Posterity is here, I don't mean maybe.
There's nothing guarantees it like a baby.
Posterity is here and will continue.
We really didn't know you had it in you. Posterity is in its infancy.
I sing to every citizen and foreigner.
Posterity is just around the corner. We'll soon be blowing bombs like Yankee horror. Posterity is just around the corner. Posterity, posterity, pop, pop, posterity, 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 pop, pop. Posterity is just around the corner, around the corner.
Well done. Well, now we're into the 40s and 50s. There really wasn't a Harry Truman musical, although, of course, Truman ran for re-election, well, I guess election, on I'm Just Wild About Harry, a song from the Broadway musical Shuffle Along. And then Irving Berlin got the idea to deal with the transition from Truman into perhaps a Republican administration in 1950 with Call Me Madam. So here's one of Irving Berlin's most amusing songs. You'll never hear anybody sing it in a cabaret, so you might as well enjoy it here, and then we'll segue straight into another Irving Berlin political song. But from Call Me Madam, They Like Ike.
Could you boys make head or tail of what that was all about?
Well, it just proves what I've been thinking all along. The trouble with these European governments is they're all run by foreigners.
I don't think that friend of Sally's should have been so eager for an election.
Spoken like a Republican.
What do you mean?
Well, if you boys had a candidate for 52, you wouldn't be so afraid of elections.
Oh, yeah? We've got a candidate. Want to start an argument? The presidential year will soon be drawing near.
The people soon will choose their favorite son.
I wonder what they'll do in 1952. I wonder who they'll send to Washington.
They like Ike.
What?
And Ike is good on a mic. They like Ike.
But Ike says he don't wanna.
Oh, that makes Ike the kind of fella they like. And what's more, they seem to think he's gonna.
But Harry won't get out. They're in for plenty of fights.
Harry won't get out. He's got squatters' rights.
But there's Ike, and Ike is good on a mic. And they know the votes that he can carry.
But don't forget there's Harry.
Yes, but they like Ike.
They won't take Saltonstall, and Stassen's chance is small. The same would go for Vandenberg and Taft.
And Dewey's right in line with William Jennings Bryan. There isn't anyone that they can draft.
They like Ike, and Ike is good on a mic. They like Ike.
But Ike says he won't take it.
Oh, that makes Ike the kind of fella they like. And what's more, they seem to think he'll make it.
But Harry's on the ground, and should Republicans win,
when they come around, he won't let them in.
If it's Ike, your chief can get on his bike, and his things a motor van will carry.
You can't do that to Harry.
Ah, but they like Ike.
For nearly 20 years, we've had the people's cheers. The Democrats continue to advance.
Of course they could arrange to make a sudden change, but none's around who seems to have a chance.
They like Ike, and Ike is good on a mic. They like Ike.
But Ike says he's not bidding.
Oh, that makes Ike the kind of fella they like. And what's more, they seem to think he's kidding.
But Harry won't consent. They'll get a sock on the jaw.
Republican president? That's against the law.
If it's Ike, your chief can go on a hike. And we boys will see he doesn't tarry.
Please don't do that to Harry.
Ah, but they like Ike.
It seems that every spring they all approach the ring and cockily keep throwing in their hats.
They always lose, but then they come right back again. And some of them come back as Democrats. But Ike says he don't choose to.
Oh, that makes Ike the kind of fella they like. And what's more, they know he won't refuse to.
But Harry's quite content to stay there living in peace.
The people pay the rent. You can't break his lease.
If it's Ike, your chief can go on a strike. And we boys will hand his hat to Harry.
They can't do that to Harry.
Ah, but they
like The Secret Service makes me nervous
When I am dating, they are waiting to observe us. When I get ready to hold steady for a kiss he'll plant, the Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't. They're always spying, no denying. They're always peeping, gumshoe creeping, private eyeing. When I'm beginning to give inning like a maiden ant, the Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't. I've been exposed beyond control, just like a goldfish in a bowl. The president's daughter must drink water. No drink of scotch, she might do what she hadn't oughter. When I'm ignited, so excited that I start to pant, the Secret Service makes me nervous when my lamps are lit and I say, this is it. The Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't. The Secret Service makes me nervous. Those White House dicks get all their kicks when they observe us. Just as I wind up, make my mind up not to say I won't, the Secret Service makes me nervous and I don't. When things look rosy, they get nosy. They'll say there's Tootsie playing footsie, very cozy. My pulse goes higher, I'm on fire, shaking at the knees. The Secret Service makes me nervous and I freeze. Whatever I may do or say will be reported the next day. When I'm reported, it's distorted. They don't see clearly when I'm merely being courted. When I'm just necking, simply pecking with a Cary Grant. They stand behind me to remind me who and what I am. When I don't give a damn, the Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't.
Well, perhaps not Irving Berlin's finest hour, but certainly an amusing song from Mr. President, sung by Anita Gillette. Makes me think about Amy Carter and Chelsea Clinton and the Obama daughters. Difficult to be a daughter in the White House. Well, talking about entering the White House, we'll move a little further into some more current administrations. Obviously, the Kennedy administration has perhaps its own hour of songs on their own, Camelot perhaps, and Bobby and Jackie and Jack from Merrily. Won't get to that, but was there ever a Nixon musical? Well, no, of course not. But here's a little segment I like from a wonderful comedian who passed away last year named David Fry. And in 1969, he recorded an album called I Am the President. And this is the story of Dick Nixon and Pat Nixon very, very early on the morning after Election Day, 1968.
Well, I certainly hope that Lyndon's at home.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Where else would he be? I still say we should have called first.
Pat, I considered the options, and after much thought, I made a decision. A dime is a dime. Ring the bell. Make a note, that bell has got to go. Now, Pat, whatever you do, don't tell him that I've never been above the first floor.
All right, I won't tell him you've never been above the first floor.
Who is it, Lyndon?
How do I know what idiot would come a-calling at 4 o'clock in the morning? Is that you, Hubert?
No, sir, it's Dick and Pat.
It's Pick and Pat.
No, Dick and Pat, the President-elect and Mrs.-elect.
Welcome to the White House. And please pardon my nightcap and my boots. What can I do for you?
Well, we got the election returns this morning. I got here as fast as I could.
I understand you wanting to look the place over. But you've been to the White House before, haven't you, Dick?
Yes, but he's never been above the first floor.
All right, I'll give you the tour. Stop kissing my hand. The tour is $2. Thank you, Dick. Company coming up, Lady Bird. Beautify yourself. Get in my elevator.
I want to say that I'm deeply honored to be in the White House elevator.
I'm deeply thrilled to be riding in the White House elevator.
I'm pleased as punch to be running the White House elevator.
That was David Fry in his particularly talented way imitating LBJ, Nixon, and the vanquished Hubert Humphrey at the same time. Well, as you know, Election Day is just around the corner, and whoever you vote for, I hope you do so with your full conscience and make sure you get out there and vote. And I like to think that no matter what happens, as Johnny Mercer once said in Little Abner, the country is in the very best of hands. Let's hope. Here is Peter Palmer and Stubby Kaye from Little Abner to convince us.
Them city folks and we'uns are pretty much alike, though they ain't used to living in the sticks. We don't like stone or cement, but we is in agreement when we gets down to talking politics. The country's in the very best of hands. The best of hands. The best of hands. The Treasury says the national debt is climbing to the sky, and government expenditures have never been so high. It makes a fella get a gleam of pride within his eye to see how our economy expands. The country's in the very best of hands. The country's in the very best of hands. The best of hands. The best of hands. You ought to hear the Senate when they're drawing up a bill, whereas's and to wits are crowded in each codicil. Such legal terminology would give your heart a thrill. There's phrases there that no one understands. The country's in the very best of hands. The building boom, they say, is getting bigger every day. And when I asked the feller, how can everybody pay? He come up with an answer that made everything okay. Supplies are getting greater than demands. The country's in the very best of hands. Don't you believe them congressmen and senators are dumb when they run into problems that is tough to overcome? They just declare something they calls a moratorium. The upper and the lower house disbands. The country's in the very best of hands. Us voters is connected to the nominee. The nominee's connected to the Treasury. When he ain't connected to the Treasury, he sits around in his thigh bone. They sits around in his place they got. This big congressional parking lot just sits around on the you-know-what. Up there they calls them their thigh bone. Them bones gonna rise again, gonna exercise a franchise again, gonna tax us up to our eyes again when he gets them off in their thigh bone. The country's in the very best of hands. The best of still should be 89% of parity. Another fella recommends it should be 9 to 3. But 80-95%, who cares about degree? It's parity that no one understands.
The country's in the very best of hands.
Them GOPs and Democrats each hates the other one. They's always criticizing how the country should be run. But neither tells the public what the other's gone and done. As long as no one knows where no one stands.
The country's in the very best of hands.
They sits around in this place they're at, where folks in Congress has always sat. Just sits around on their excess fat. Up there they calls them their thigh bone. They sits around till they starts to snore. Jumps up and hollers out has the floor. Then sits right down where they sat before. Up there they calls them their thigh bone. Them bones gonna rise again, so dignified and so wise again, while the budget doubles in size again when it gets them off in their thigh bone.
The country's in the very best of hands, the best of hands, the best of hands.
The money that they taxes us, that's known as revenues. They compounds up collateral, subtracts the residues. Don't worry about the principal and interest that accrues. They're shipping all that stuff to foreign lands.
The country's in the very best of hands.
Well, that's the happy hoedown version of the American political scene. We are at a very crucial time in our country's history, so it's worth taking seriously. I hope, again, you all go out to vote, and even before that, you come to Merkin Concert Hall on October 20th to see Mr. Gershwin Goes to Washington if you happen to be in New York City. But it is a serious business, the governorship of America, putting your hand on the tiller of the great ship of state. So let's go to a slightly more somber note, but a beautiful one. This is from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a score by Leonard Bernstein with lyrics by Alan Lerner that I'm very fond of. And for a studio recording, here's Marin Mazzie singing the role of Mrs. John Adams, Abigail Adams, instructing a young man to take care of this house. So listen and take it all very seriously and get out and vote, and we'll see you soon.
Take care of this house, keep it from harm. If bandits break in, sound the alarm. Care for this house, shine it by hand, and keep it so clean the glow can be seen. Off with a dream, the dream will be yours. Take care of this house, echo the doors. If someone makes off with a dream, the dream will be yours. Take care of this house, be always on care for this house. It's the hope of us
Well, where is the time all gone to? This is Larry Maslon here at Broadway to Main Street. Let's catch up next Sunday at 3.
There's so much more embracing still to be done, but time is racing. Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time.